revealed how a billionaire CEO's incredible love for his maid transformed their lives forever. David Hartman, the self-made billionaire from the posh suburbs, stood in front of the polished glass walls of his towering office, his reflection staring back at him. Outside, the sun glimmered against the manicured lawns and luxurious homes, but inside, he felt crushed under the weight of his success. He had everything one could dream of: money, a beautiful family, and a booming tech empire, but his heart ached with an unshakable loneliness. Behind the image of the American dream, he often found himself longing for connection, searching for meaning. Then, there was Maria, a devoted immigrant from Mexico. She worked tirelessly as his maid to support her 2 children. Her life was a constant juggle of jobs, crowded buses, and tight budgets, all while carrying the hope of a better future. Each day, Maria walked through David's home, bringing a warmth that contrasted sharply with the coldness that had seeped into his life. Her laughter filled the rooms as she chased after dust and dirt, shining light on corners that had long been overshadowed by wealth and affluence. One sunny afternoon, an unexpected crisis rattled their community. A sudden economic downturn left many families struggling to make ends meet. Neighbors who had kept to themselves were now banding together, sharing resources and stories, forced to confront a reality that they all managed to ignore for too long. David observed this transformation through his towering office window, recognizing the shift around him, but feeling like an outsider in his own community. As Maria worked tirelessly during this difficult time, she noticed David's distant gaze often fixed on her, as if she were a mirror reflecting a reality he was not yet ready to face. That day, when she found him standing alone in the hallway, she forged ahead, her voice steady. "Mr. Hartman, sometimes it's okay to ask for help. None of us can do this alone." Her words struck him like a lightning bolt, unraveling something deep within. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." That moment of honesty ignited something in David. Their worlds began to collide in meaningful ways, and he found himself increasingly drawn to Maria and her unwavering spirit. She spoke of sacrifice with pride, and the barriers she faced with fierce determination. Their conversations, once fleeting, grew longer as they shared their struggles. Yet, just as David was beginning to see the world through Maria's eyes, scandal erupted at Hartman Tech. Whispers of unethical practices surfaced, threatening to plunge his empire into chaos. Panic set in as he grasped the reality that he might lose everything he had built. Standing at the edge of his own unraveling, he thought of Maria, her quiet integrity and fierce loyalty, forcing him to question what truly mattered. As he looked into her eyes, a storm of emotions swirled. Would he take this leap, embracing the chance to truly connect with her, or would he fall back into the comfortable, yet hollow, embrace of his wealth? With a community in pain and a friendship awaiting him, David was faced with a choice. Could he redefine his notions of success, or let his ambition drown out the humanity that Maria had illuminated within him? David stood silently, caught in a moment that could change everything. Maria's warm gaze anchored him, and for a fleeting second, the weight of the world lifted. Their shared connection was undeniable. Flames of courage flickered within him as he realized that true connection came with a risk, one that could either forge a path to genuine happiness or sever everything he thought his life meant. "It's easier to ignore," he whispered, feeling the edges of his empire crumble inside. Maria stepped closer, her expression softening. "But it's harder to live that way. We need each other." The quiet courage in her voice reverberated within him. He had spent years building walls, but she showed him that vulnerability could be a strength. For the first time, David gave himself a moment to soften. "What if they find out? I could lose everything in an instant." "What is everything if you're alone in it?" she asked, a challenge hidden in her calm tone. That night, David lay awake, staring at the ceiling in his sprawling home that felt emptier than ever. He realized that he feared losing his company more than he feared confronting the truth he had been avoiding. The threats to his business were concerning, yes, but the wounds in his heart were deeper, more urgent. As dawn broke, he made a decision fueled by a burgeoning hope. He called an emergency meeting with the company's board, not to discuss crisis control, but to address the need for change. The company could no longer operate in the shadows. They would confront the rumors head-on, embracing transparency and accountability. He felt invigorated. As the meeting commenced, David's resolve surprised even himself. We cannot hide behind our wealth any longer. It's time to rebuild trust, both within our company and our community. Gasps and murmurs filled the room, the board members exchanging glances tinged with disbelief. After the meeting, David sought out Maria, who was organizing supplies for families hit hardest by the economic downturn. Her laughter, a beacon of hope, drew him closer. "Maria, I need your help," he admitted, the words barely escaping his lips. "I want to help the community, but I can't do it alone." She looked at him, her eyes wide but softened with understanding. "You want to turn your empire into something meaningful, don't you?" "Yes," he nodded ardently. "I want to show everyone what truly matters." Days turned into weeks as they collaborated on a community initiative. They focused on outreach programs, support for struggling families, and job training. Slowly, the community began to trust him. David felt a sense of fulfillment he had never experienced before, but the challenges only intensified. Media scrutiny was relentless. A journalist jumped onto the scandal, painting him as a villain rather than the hero he aimed to be. Moments of doubt crept in, and whispers of betrayal echoed in hallways he'd once strolled confidently. However, Maria's constant encouragement grounded him. Every challenge he faced became a reminder of the importance of connection, of being truly alive. Heart-pounding, he decided to face the public. The day of the press conference loomed ahead, an opportunity to redefine his image and his purpose. Would he finally find the courage to share Maria's importance to him? Would he let the world see that love can bloom in the most unexpected places? Standing outside the venue, the weight of his choice settled over him. He glanced at Maria beside him, her expression fierce yet tender. The moment had arrived. With the spotlight glaring, he took a deep breath, ready to reveal not only his flaws, but also the truth about what he had learned from Maria, the greatest treasure of all. Could love truly heal the scars and unite them all? As David stepped into the press conference room, the murmurs of the crowd washed over him like a wave. Cameras clicked and whirred, capturing every moment, every sweat bead that trickled down his forehead. He could feel their eyes on him, each one a judgment waiting to happen. Maria squeezed his hand, grounding him. "You can do this," she whispered, her voice a soft confidence in the chaos. He wished he could believe that. Taking center stage, he shifted his weight, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He cleared his throat, the microphone amplifying the sound in the tense silence. "Thank you all for being here today." His voice cracked slightly, but he pressed on. "I stand before you, not just as the CEO of this company, but as a man who has made mistakes." He paused, letting those words linger in the air. His heart raced. The truth clawed at him, desperate to be unleashed. "I've hidden behind my wealth and my position for too long. I believed I could fix everything without truly connecting with the people I impact." A low murmur rippled through the audience. He scanned faces, searching for understanding. Instead, he saw skepticism. It stung, but it also fueled his determination. "And I want to share a story," he continued, his gaze searching for Maria's supportive smile. "A story about a woman who has shown me what it really means to care, what it means to love." He felt a warmth blooming in his chest as he recalled their late-night conversations, the laughter, the moments that made him believe in something more. "Maria has taught me that vulnerability isn't weak. It's the strongest thing we can do." At her name, the crowd shifted, curious but cautious. He pressed on, aware that this was his moment of truth. "Together, we've been working on initiatives to support our community, to build trust again. There's so much we can do, but I can't do it alone. The community deserves honesty." David could see the skepticism begin to fade from some faces, but not all. A journalist stood up, challenging him. "Do you think people will just forget who you were? Can love erase your past?" The question hit hard, but it was a fair one. David swallowed, recalling the shame he sometimes felt. No, and I would never expect that. Love doesn't erase the past. It drives us to change it. It pushes us to become better. He watched Maria's face, her unwavering support lifting him. I know I can't change overnight. This will take time, effort, and a lot of hard work. I'm committed to this. His voice rose with passion. So here I am, asking for another chance. Will you give me that chance? A heavy silence hung in the air before whispers erupted once again. David stepped back, heart thumping like a drum. He had laid his truth bare, the risk palpable. As they exited the venue, Maria joined him, her eyes shining. You did it. I knew you could. I'm just scared, he confessed. What if they don't believe me? They will, she said firmly. But only if you live the truth you spoke about. This is just the beginning. Stepping into the sunlight, he felt a shift within himself. Maybe this was a new dawn, an opportunity to truly redefine everything. But as they walked away, David received a notification on his phone. His heart sank as he read the headline that flashed across the screen. Billionaire CEO's attempt to win back community under scrutiny. A dark secret revealed. His breath caught. What had they discovered? David's heart raced again, but this time it wasn't from hope. It was fear. What secret had turned back the tides, threatening everything he had just built? David pulled Maria close as they walked away from the press conference, her expression a mix of pride and worry. I can't believe they're already digging into my past, he said, despair creeping into his voice. What could they possibly want now? Maria furrowed her brow, her grip tightening on his arm. Don't think about it too much. Just focus on what's next. But David could feel the weight of that headline pressing down on him like a storm cloud. They stepped into the nearby cafe, seeking refuge from the prying eyes of the reporters and the buzzing energy of the city. As they settled into a small booth, David pulled out his phone, mind racing with possible scenarios. What had they uncovered? Every moment he spent wondering felt like an eternity. I have to look, I need to know, he said, glancing over at Maria, who nodded, though her eyes were filled with concern. With trembling hands, he opened the article. Words jumped out at him. Secret relationships, mismanagement, and dirt. His stomach twisted painfully. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about everything he had tried to build, the trust he was just beginning to earn back. David, Maria said softly, but he silenced her with a wave. He needed to process this. Then came the part that made him feel like the floor had dropped out beneath him. A mention of Anna, a woman from his past. His former assistant, no, his friend who had always stood by him, even when everyone else had turned away. Anna? He whispered, the name tumbling off his lips like a forgotten memory rushing back. She had been so much more than just an assistant to him. She had been his confidant during the darker days, the ones he wished to forget. Is everything okay? Maria's voice brought him back to the present. They're tying me to Anna, David replied, his voice barely above a whisper. They're saying our relationship was something more. Maria's expression hardened. And is it true? It wasn't like that, he stammered. She helped me through some tough times, but that was all just friendship. But in the harsh light of the cafe, David began to doubt. Had he let his vulnerabilities slip? Had those late nights spent confiding in Anna crossed a line without his knowing? Could he have hurt Maria with that ambiguity? He met Maria's gaze, and the hurt was fleetingly evident in her eyes. You can't let them turn your past into your future, she urged, her determination fierce. You're building something real now, David. Don't give them power. As David absorbed her words, a sense of resolve began to form within him. He had to confront this. He wasn't going to run from the truth or let the public narrative control his story. He needed to take action. I'm going to clarify this with Anna, he announced, a newfound conviction ringing in his voice. If the press wants to know the truth, then I'll make sure it's told. I can't let them ruin everything I've worked for, everything we've worked for. Maria smiled, pride replacing the worry in her eyes. That's the spirit. You have to fight for what you believe in. In that moment, a wave of strength surged through him. Maybe he could transform this moment of vulnerability into an opportunity to grow. But as they stood to leave, another notification pinged on his phone, a message from Anna, shaking him to his core. I need to talk. It's important. David took a deep breath, a mix of hope and dread flooding through him. What could this mean for him and Maria? Uncertainty loomed, but one thing was clear. The battle was far from over. David stared at the screen, heart pounding. What could Anna possibly want to discuss that was so urgent? He felt Maria looking at him, her concern a palpable thing in the air between them. Maybe it's just about work, he said, trying to convince both of them. But deep down, he knew that wasn't true. It felt bigger, like an avalanche waiting to crash down. Should we go to her place? Maria suggested, her voice steady but her eyes betraying her own sense of unease. We shouldn't wait, he replied, determination hardening his tone. I need to face this head on. As they walked outside, the city felt different somehow, the bustling streets buzzing with a nervous energy that mirrored his own. He could hardly focus on anything else. Memories of past conversations with Anna flitted through his mind, strategies they had discussed, dreams they had dared to share over late-night meetings. But now, those memories felt like double-edged swords. Minutes later, they stood in front of Anna's apartment. The familiar building had once felt like a safe haven, but today, it loomed over him like a fortress filled with secrets. David, are you sure about this? Maria asked, a hint of hesitation in her voice. David nodded, though unease churned in his stomach. He raised his hand to knock, but before he could, the door swung open. Anna stood there, her expression unreadable. For a brief second, they just stared at each other, lost in past memories, the laughter, the support, the way she had brought light into his darkest hours. David, she said, voice soft but steady. I'm glad you came. Maria stood behind him, clearly unsure of how to navigate this tense reunion. David could feel the air shift as she tried to assess the situation. Is everything all right? He asked, trying to sound casual though his voice trembled. Anna stepped back, motioning for them to enter. Please, come in. We need to talk. There is something you don't know. Once inside, the familiarity washed over him, the sun-drenched room where he had shared so many ideas, dreams, and fragile moments. But now it felt weighty, shadowed by what was about to unfold. Anna took a deep breath and finally looked up at him, a mix of fear and determination in her eyes. I didn't want you to find out this way. David felt a knot tightening in his chest. Find out what? It's about the headlines. They're not just rumors, David. Someone has been digging into your life. They've gotten into my past, too. Someone is trying to vilify you through my story. What do you mean? David's voice rose, uncertainty brewing. I never thought it would come to this. I thought it was all behind me, Anna said, her gaze fixing on the floor. But it's as if someone wants to rewrite the narrative, turn us into something we're not. Maria shifted beside him, the tension thickening in the air. And what exactly are they saying? David's heart was racing, desperate to understand but hesitant to push Anna further. Anna finally lifted her gaze, vulnerability etched across her face. They're implying there was more to our relationship, something scandalous. Why would they do this? David's voice cracked, the realization of how vulnerable they both were hitting him like a freight train. Because we're both in the spotlight now, Anna replied, urgency in her tone. They think it makes for a better story. David felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. This wasn't just affecting him, it would ripple through Anna, and worse, Maria. David, I need to tell you everything, Anna started, but before she could continue, another message pinged on David's phone, drawing all attention back to him. He looked down, feeling as though the earth beneath him was giving way. The message read, I know everything about you, and I'm ready to expose your secrets. Fear gripped him, icy and unyielding. What do we do now? Maria asked, her voice trembling with anxiety. David swallowed hard, determination mixing with dread. The fight was only just beginning, and he had to protect those he loved no matter the cost. What would he uncover next? Who was behind this threat? David's hands shook as he clutched his phone, grounding himself against the weight of the reality crashing down around him. We need a plan, he said, voice steadier than he felt. Anna's eyes widened, filled with fear and regret. David, if they've found a way to connect our stories, they will stop at nothing. I mean, they're implying things that aren't true. If people believe this, it could ruin both our lives. Maria nervously raked her hair back, her brow furrowing deeper with each passing moment. Are you two in any danger? Should we contact the authorities? David shook his head, the sinking feeling in his gut intensifying. No, not yet. If this is a smear campaign, then we need to understand who's behind it first before escalating it to something we can't control. Anna nodded, but looked pale. They're going to come after you, David. If they think I'm a target, That makes you one too. We need to think like them. He set the phone down on the table, the screen still blinking with the ominous message. Okay, let us piece this together. Who could have a motive? What shadows from your past could someone exploit? Anna's hands trembled slightly as she clasped them together, her dark hair falling like a curtain around her face. My previous job. I had a very public fallout with the company I worked for. They turned the media against me. If someone's digging there, they might find something I thought was buried. Do you think they're after you specifically? Maria asked. Or is this all about David's rise in the company? I think it's both, Anna said solemnly. The higher you rise, the harder they aim for a fall. They want a story that sells, and unfortunately, we're it. David paced restlessly, feeling suffocated by the walls he had once considered safe. That's it. This is all about control, about ruining us both. We can't let that happen. We have to act now. A flicker of hope ignited behind Anna's eyes. We can leak a counter-narrative. Control the story before it becomes a wildfire. We need to get ahead of this. Counter-narrative? Maria asked, tilting her head as she processed the idea. But how? We don't have any supporters, not right now. Not yet, David replied, determination merging with adrenaline. But we can reach out to trusted allies. Gather intel, identify the source behind these attacks, and hit back with facts instead of drama. Someone powerful must be pulling the strings, Anna added thoughtfully. If we can expose them, we might blow this whole thing wide open. As they brainstormed, the tension in the room transformed into something electric, a sense of purpose, a need to fight back against the impending storm. But David could feel the weight of secrets they still hadn't addressed, substances left unsaid that threatened their fragile alliance. What will we do if it's someone we know? David whispered, voice heavy with uncertainty. Maria's eyes searched his. Then we'll have to confront them, find out what they want. If it's personal, we must be prepared for anything. The door rattled with a sudden knock that startled them. David's heart raced as he exchanged worried glances with Anna and Maria. Stay quiet, he mouthed, instinct taking over as he moved to peek through the peephole. His breath hitched when he recognized the shadow outside, the very person he hoped to avoid. Who is it? Maria asked, her voice barely above a whisper. David hesitated, the gravity of the moment washing over him like a cold wave. It's someone I never thought I'd see again, and they might hold the key to this mess. As the doorknob turned slowly, he braced himself for whatever truth lay behind the door, knowing it could change everything. What new revelations awaited on the other side? The door swung open, and David's heart raced like a jackhammer in his chest. Standing there was Marcus, his old friend, or maybe old enemy was a better descriptor now. Their eyes locked, and the air felt thick with history. Marcus had that familiar arrogance about him. But David could see a flicker of something different today, an uncertainty shadowing his confident demeanor. David, Marcus said, sounding almost tentative. We need to talk. David's mind raced. Talk. After years of silence and animosity, the suppressed memories of betrayal and rivalry bubbled up. With every hesitation, David could feel the weight of Anna and Maria behind him, both waiting for him to make a move. What do you want, Marcus? The words slipped out sharper than he intended, frustration boiling just beneath the surface. I know why you're afraid, Marcus began, stepping into the room uninvited. The door closed behind him with a soft click, sealing off any chance of retreat. And I can help. Help? Anna echoed incredulously, stepping forward, her voice laced with offense. You think we'd accept help from you after everything? Just hear me out, Marcus urged, raising his hands defensively. I know there's a smear campaign out against you too. It's bigger than you think. I didn't realize it at first, but I've been keeping tabs. You have to know this goes deeper than just a few rumors. People are trying to destroy your credibility in the company. David exchanged glances with Anna, gauging her reaction. Could Marcus be trusted? Or was he simply here to define his own narrative, rewriting the scripts he had crafted in the shadows of their past? Why now? David asked, skepticism evident in his tone. Why do you care? Because, Marcus replied, his expression shifting from arrogant to earnest. Maybe I was wrong about everything. Lately, I've been reflecting, and I realized it doesn't sit right with me. You deserve better than this. Besides, I know who's behind it. David's breath hitched at those words. You know who? It's someone from our circle, someone who wanted to take you down a peg, Marcus confessed, tension radiating from him. And they've been using you and Anna as pawns in a larger game. I've suspected it for a while. We're in turmoil at the company, and they want to pit us against each other. What do you want in return? Maria asked sharply, arms crossed, unreadable. Nothing. Just a chance to make things right. To stop a catastrophe. Marcus's voice faltered but held an unexpected weight. I want your trust to navigate this. We can't let whoever is orchestrating this win. David weighed the words, feeling the urgency in the air pulse through him. He didn't know if he could trust Marcus, but the gravity of their situation demanded action. Fine, he said finally, decision solidifying in his gut. But if this is a trick, Anna stepped in, her voice steady, eyes locked on Marcus. We need transparency. If you have information, you have to share everything. I will, Marcus promised. Let us start with a plan. Together, we can outsmart whoever thinks they can pull the strings. But just as they began to strategize, David's phone buzzed violently on the table. Heart pounding, he grabbed it. A new message appeared. One that made all color drain from his face. Before he could read it out loud, Anna's eyes widened. What is it? It's a threat, David murmured, shaking slightly. They know what we're doing. A heavy silence filled the room, punctuated only by the steady beat of David's hammering heart. They had stepped from uncertainty into a noose, and the stakes had never been higher. As David faced the reality of the escalating chaos, the walls around him seemed to constrict, air feeling thin. We may have made a deal with the devil, he whispered, and he is watching us. What new depths of deceit were they about to uncover? David felt his palms clammy against the cold surface of the table, the phone still vibrating, as if echoing the turmoil inside him. The threat was not just a message. It was a harbinger of the storm that was about to break. He looked up at Marcus, whose face now wore an expression that was hard to read, almost a mix of fear and determination. Who would do this? Who would go to such lengths? Anna's voice cut through the tension, shaking slightly. A part of David felt gratitude for her strength, her refusal to let fear dictate their actions. But the other part was raw with uncertainty. I don't know, Marcus replied, running a hand through his hair, his arrogance completely stripped away. But we need to work together to find out. This isn't just about you two. It's about any remnants of trust we might have left in this circle. Great. Let us just throw trust around like it's confetti, Maria said bitterly, her arms still crossed, stance defiant. You expect us to believe you? Right now, believing or not believing doesn't change anything, Marcus shot back. If we sit back and do nothing, we'll be outplayed. Do you really want to end up in a position where you're at someone else's mercy? Because that is exactly what is happening. David's heart sank deeper. He knew she was right. The threat looming over them was real and immediate. They needed information, and suddenly teaming up with Marcus didn't feel like a choice. It felt like survival. What is our next step? David asked, his voice steadier now, gaining purpose. Marcus took a breath, his usual swagger replaced by cautious resolve. We need to gather intel. Find out who is speaking to whom, and where the rumors are being spread. We go back to the source of the gossip and unravel it thread by thread. Sounds simple enough in theory, Anna said, her skepticism hanging thick in the air. But people talk. They get nervous. If we dig too deep, we risk exposing ourselves further. There will always be risks, Marcus replied, his eyes fiery now. But exposure doesn't mean defeat. It means we're fighting back. We have to turn the script on this. David felt the walls of possibilities expanding as he began to forge a plan. It might not be smart to trust Marcus completely, but he recognized the urgency of their plight. All right then, what if we start with the team? We have allies in the company. We need to speak with those who can help. That could work, Marcus nodded, a flicker of appreciation in his gaze. But we need to be careful about who we approach. Anyone could turn on us if they think we're a problem. Jesus, this is turning into a spy movie, Maria muttered, but even she seemed slightly more engaged now. So, we find trusted colleagues and gather intelligence. Then what? We confront whoever's behind this. After we have proof, David added. And then we decide our next steps. It's all about playing this game smart and staying a step ahead. As they began piecing together their strategy, the tension unraveled slightly. The plan took shape like fog dissipating under the sun, revealing a glimpse of hope. But just as they reached a tentative understanding, David's phone buzzed again, this time with a call that he looked at the screen. Every inch of him tensed at the sight of an unknown number. It's them, isn't it? He breathed out, the air thick with dread. The implications were heavy. They were being watched. Answer it, Anna said, her voice barely above a whisper, each syllable weighing with fear. David glanced around the room. Every pair of eyes was fixed on him, furiously weighing the gravity of this moment. Or it could be a trap, Maria added, her brows knitted, but courage was building in their collective hearts. Swallowing hard, he pressed the answer button, hard in his throat, forcing himself to breathe. Hello? The voice on the other end was smooth, laced with an unsettling calm. David, you've been digging too deep. I suggest you back off before you regret it. The line went dead. David's heart dropped as he processed the threat, clearly a warning. But who was behind it? The stakes were now clearer than ever. The enemy was out there, hiding among familiar faces, waiting for their next move. As silence settled once again in the room, tension crept back in. What would they uncover next in this twisted game? And at what cost? David's stomach twisted as he hung up the call. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thick with uncertainty. He looked at Anna. The fear in her eyes mirrored his own. This was no longer just an annoyance or a small office rivalry. This was about their very safety. Digging too deep, he whispered, replaying the warning in his mind. What does that even mean? I don't know, Marcus said quietly, his voice strained. But it means we're on someone else's radar. We have to move fast and carefully. Maria pushed herself off the wall, her stubbornness momentarily replaced by concern. If they're watching us, then we should change up our routine. No meetings in the same places. We can't let anyone anticipate our moves. David nodded, mind racing. Okay, we should meet at my place tonight. No one will see us there. It'll keep things low-key. And we can strategize without prying eyes. I can bring snacks, Anna suggested, offering a hint of warmth in the otherwise tense atmosphere. It was a small, brave attempt to lighten the load pressing down on them. Perfect, Marcus agreed, his leadership instinct kicking back in. But let us not invite too many people. Just the core group. We can't risk exposure. Hours passed. As they left the office, David's heart drummed in his chest. With each step towards the parking lot, he felt the weight of unseen eyes. He fidgeted with his keys, glancing over his shoulder. Shadows lurked in the corners of his vision. He could almost feel the tension crackling in the air like static before a storm. The drive home was a blur. He was lost in worry. Would they really confront this unknown enemy? Was it someone they trusted? The idea sent chills down his spine. He parked, quickly accumulating his belongings and ducking through his front door. The familiar warmth of his home was a comfort, but even that felt overshadowed by the looming threat. Quietly, David began rearranging his living room, pushing furniture to create a more open space for their meeting, his mind whirling still. When the doorbell rang, he almost jumped. It was Anna first, a welcoming smile brightening her face despite the situation. I brought chips and salsa. It's my go-to for stress. Thanks, Anna, David replied, grateful for the moment of normalcy. As he stepped back to let her inside, he noticed a flicker of movement outside his window. He peered out, questioning if he was imagining things. Then came Marcus, his confident bearing partially restored. He carried a couple of pizza boxes, a tangible reminder of simpler days. We need fuel for this endeavor, right? He said, his smile slightly strained. Maria arrived last, her brow furrowed with seriousness. I didn't see anyone following me, she announced, though the tightness in her voice betrayed her own nervousness. As they settled, the atmosphere shifted. David cleared his throat. All right, we're all on edge. Let us talk about our plan. We've got to figure out who's behind these threats. Just as he began laying out their next steps, the lights flickered ominously. Then, a deafening crash echoed from outside, sending them all scrambling to the windows. What was that? Anna gasped, pressing her hands against the glass, but all they could see was darkness. David's heart raced as dread tightened around his chest. I don't know, but it doesn't feel right. Before they could react, his phone buzzed again, illuminating the dimly lit room. David held it tight, dread creeping into his thoughts. Who could it possibly be this time? He glanced at Anna and Marcus, their expressions tense with fear. The next moment felt electric, the air thickening as he braced himself to check the message. In one swift motion, he opened the notification, his blood running cold at the words that awaited him. You should have listened. There are consequences for meddling. A scream nearly escaped his lips, but it was swallowed in the silence that ensued. What had they stirred up? And how far would it go before it consumed them entirely? As they exchanged panicked glances, the reality set in. They were in deeper than ever. David could almost feel the walls closing in. How would they navigate this new layer of chaos? What more awaited them in the darkness lurking just beyond their threshold? Pushing the curtains aside, David stared into the dark abyss outside. Fear coursed through him like ice. "We need to fortify the house," he said urgently, glancing back at Anna, Maria, and Marcus, their faces pale and anxious. This was more than just threats on their lives. It was a battlefield now, and they were at the center of it. Anna's voice broke through the thick tension. "What if we turn off the lights? Make it less obvious we're here." "Yes," Marcus said, nodding. "If they think we're just a couple of shadows in the house, it might give us an advantage." As they moved towards the light switches, David's phone buzzed again, and everyone froze. The shadows whispered doubt through his mind. He couldn't let fear dictate their actions. Not anymore. "No more running, no more hiding. Let us put our heads together," he said, steeling his resolve. "We don't have to be alone in this." The determination in his voice rallied the room like a battle cry. They extinguished the lights, plunging the space into an uncanny calm. Only the glow from David's phone illuminated the concerned faces of his allies. "Okay, what's our plan?" David asked, feeling their fear morph into something more. "Hope, maybe. Sometimes it takes a storm to expose the wicked," Maria said, and her eyes sparkled with a bravery that ignited warmth in David's heart. "Let us gather everything we know and come up with a counter-strategy." "Yes," Anna exclaimed, her earlier hesitance fading. "But we need to talk to people who can help us with things we can prove, people who stand with us." David took a deep breath, the lingering threat settling like heavy, paralyzing fog. "Marcus, if you know anyone still at your former company, we might be able to get intel." "I do," he confirmed with a sly smile. "There are still a few loyal friends. I'll reach out to them tonight." Just as they began to formulate the plan, a loud thump echoed against the door, causing everyone to jump. David's heart sank. "What was that?" "Stay down," Anna hissed. Fear gripped David anew as Maria and Anna crouched behind the couch, and Marcus positioned himself between them and the door. David's mind raced. They had to stay united, to push past the darkness and fear. "Let us act like we're not here," Marcus whispered, his voice steadying with resolve. Each heart thumped like a drum as the thumping at the door grew louder, more demanding. "Hey, open up, we know you're in there." A voice shouted from the other side, sharp and threatening. Maria's voice trembled. "What if it's them?" He shook his head, feeling the iron grip of surrender loosen its hold. "It's time for us to take control. This ends now. Do you want me to answer?" Anna asked, ready to throw herself into a confrontation, her eyes resolute. David grasped her shoulder gently, his gaze locking onto hers. "Only if you think it's safe." As if feeling her strength, Anna leaned closer to the door. "Who's there?" she challenged, voice steady despite her fear. There was a pause. "Then it's me, Marcus." "Open the door." Relief surged through their group. David stepped toward the door and hesitated a moment before slowly cracking it open, revealing Marcus's familiar figure standing outside, shadowed but safe. "What is going on?" he asked, concern flooding his eyes as he pushed through the threshold. "I think the door was a warning," David replied, voice steadying with each word. "But we need to hit back. Let us expose the truth." With newfound energy surging through them, they began to share every detail they had, ideas sparking like fireworks in the darkroom. Hours passed, their plans evolving as they interconnected their pieces of information like a puzzle. The fear was palpable, but it began to feel more manageable, and with each passing moment, it was evident how they had transformed. They moved like a united force, fueled by the truth they sought to uphold against the storm clouding their lives. Finally, as dawn broke, the dim light seeped through the windows. Their strategy was now set. They would confront the whispers, provide cold, hard facts, and let the truth expose their hidden enemy. David felt strength surge through him once more. "It's time to face whoever is trying to drag us down. We will not cower. Together, we'll win this fight." Maria squeezed his hand. "We're family now. Families protect one another. Together, we'll shine a light on the darkness," Anna added as they stood, One by one, they shared courageous smiles, reinforcing the bond they built through struggle. Hope bloomed in the air, vibrant and alive. This was their moment of rebirth, a chance to reclaim not just their lives, but their very sense of purpose. David realized just how far he had come, still a billionaire. Yes, but now a man determined to wield his power wisely, with love and authenticity. It's time to show them who we really are, David declared, heart swelling. As they stepped outside, the world was just waking up, colors sharp and beautiful. They were ready to take on the storm together. After all, the truth always prevails. As dawn painted the horizon with shades of hope, each was transformed, a testament to resilience framed within unity. Together, they would move forward into the light. Now, after this incredible embodiment of overcoming and transformation, I need you to do something vital. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss any of our exclusive stories. Leave a like now to boost the algorithm and show your support. It truly helps us out. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this explosive ending, and share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support to our community. Don't wait not even one more second to share.